the top line really sums it up. Israel's top generals want to begin a ceasefire in Gaza, even if it keeps Hamas in power for the time being, widening a rift between the military and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has opposed a truce that would allow Hamas to survive the war. And so you can see, again, this is the open conflict now between the military and the political echelon in Israel. And they say that this reflects a major shift in thinking over the past months as it became more clear that Mr. Netanyahu was refusing to articulate or commit to a post-war plan. I think what it reflects is the reality on the ground that John has been showing us, that this army is having its clock cleaned, so to speak. I think that's the right term, right? I think it's a sports terminology. But you know, they quote the Israeli military spokesperson, Daniel Hagari, who said a few weeks ago, "Those who think we could make Hamas disappear are wrong. Hamas is an idea. Hamas is a political party. It is rooted in people's hearts." And then they say, we covered this in our segment with Shir Hever, but the article points out that the Israeli army is made up largely of reservists. Some are on their third tour of duty since October and struggling to balance the fighting with their professional and family commitments. And fewer reservists are reporting for duty. It hints at problems with discipline, command and control, lack of confidence in military leadership. And it talks about, it says more than 300 soldiers have been killed in Gaza and more than 4,000 wounded. But regular viewers will know that those numbers are a gross. The New York Times is publishing them as if these are high numbers, but we know that the real numbers are much, much higher. But the point here, they're saying Israel is paying a very high price, even though they're not admitting to the full price. And this is very interesting. They say that at least some tanks in Gaza are not loaded with the full capacity of the shells that they usually carry, as the military tries to conserve its stocks in case a bigger war with Hezbollah does break out. 5 officials and officers confirmed that the army was running low on shells. The army also lacks spare parts for its tanks, military bulldozers, and armored vehicles, according to several of those officials. So again here, John has been showing us week after week, month after month, the Namer armored personnel carriers, the Merkava tanks, the Caterpillar D9 bulldozers being destroyed, or damaged at least, and towed out, and these have to be repaired, and they're short on spare parts. They're short on shells. Is that true? Some people have said, oh, this is a bluff by the military. They're saying we need to preserve our shells in case a war breaks out in the north. That's kind of the thread that goes through this article, the idea that, oh, we need to preserve our depleted and rebuild our forces for a war in the north. That's kind of their excuse. Are the shells really running out? How much of this is bluff? How much of this is designed to put pressure by the military on the political echelon? Or maybe it's a pitch to the United States. This was all leaked to the New York Times. Maybe it's a pitch to Congress of the United States to say, oh, well, give us more weapons. It could be all of those things, but I think there's some reality to it because, for example, if you follow Brian Boletic and his analysis on the New Atlas, an excellent channel, which I've been following for years, you would know that U.S. and, in fact, Western production of all types of shells, particularly artillery shells, but also tank shells, is very low because they cannot keep up with the demand from Ukraine, and they have cut their manufacturing capacity back so much. And if you cast your mind back to before this genocide, the U.S. actually removed some of its strategic reserves of munitions, which it keeps in Israel, pre-positioned in Israel. It actually removed them from Israel to send them to Ukraine. So there is a shortage of 155 millimeter artillery, of tank shells, of Patriot missiles, of all sorts of air defense systems and so on. So the Israelis really are running low on weapons that they have been largely using to murder civilians, not to fight Hamas. So I think that's very significant. And it shows, again, it highlights that Israel is really facing military and strategic defeat.